And after ensuring all these topics, efficiency emerges in the construction site, and this is how you basically deliver on time as well with high efficiency. Modular channel systems is what we focused on in our heading, but here are the applications. Mechanical suspensions, as you can see, we are all familiar with that. Pipe support systems, ventilation channels, sprinkler suspensions, modular platforms are all the products that we are working with. There are many other applications, to be honest, but if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to visit us at our booth. As for electrical support, we have some installation supports, instrumentation, fixation, dashboard control panel fixing, and other high voltage cables fixing. We have solutions in these areas. Modular channel systems, we also have a short video. And if you turn on the sound of the video, it's okay, doesn't have a sound. Well, it's more like a visual thing anyways. So how easy it is to apply it. Modular channel systems compared to conventional systems, compared to what we're used to, you can see how easy it is to apply. We will see the connecting parts and profiles. We will see them with different visuals. And as we are naming it, the comment coming from customers is that it's like Lego. And we can do a lot of things with the pieces, so it doesn't serve one single application. Many applications, similar parts can be used in them, and pieces that you can see on the screen. All the mechanical, electric suspensions and the fittings can all be attained with that. Open channel profiles, for example, the steel classes and their weight will make them different. It is weight because it's based on the principle of sustainability, and I will provide further details. You can see clamps. We have special connecting parts and apparatus, and different parts are included in it. And the digitization part of the business. Modular channel systems, what we do with it. Well, we're not only focusing on digital transformation in this area, but we wanted to highlight it here because we wanted it to be consistent with our presentation. You see 6 different topics from the very beginning to the end of the project. This allows us to be with you, to stand by you throughout your entire project cycle. And we also have a video to sum it up.
BIM is a method of sharing information between different stakeholders before, during, and after a construction project. One goal of early information sharing via BIM is to reduce failure costs by solving clashes between various disciplines already digitally. Are you a specifier? Hilti consults you in full solutions for MEP supports, anchoring and passive fire protection. Are you an installer? We support you via modeling and creation of drawings for your Hilti system solution. If you are an MEP contractor, we offer you a total package for multi-trade installation, support via design and modeling, as well as pre-assembly and advanced measuring. If you are a building owner or responsible for facility management, Hilti supports the as-built documentation and validation of passive fire protection and fastening systems, while also supporting you with the as-built documentation through advanced measuring. Hence, Hilti offers a comprehensive service portfolio, from consulting to design and modelling of modular supports, fastening solutions and passive fire protection. BIM Design Services. Via our calculation software and models, we provide you with the optimal solution you need for your specific project environment. Our calculations and aspect models can be directly loaded into your system environment, such as Revit. With these BIM design services, we enable productivity improvement throughout the entire workflow, such as design optimization, prefabrication, advanced logistics, BIM to field, validation, and field to BIM. Be with Hilti, BIM with Hilti. Let's start our journey together.
Well, the first heading is optimization in design. There was a good detail. It was about fittings, multiple fittings. We can do the design, we can be involved in the project from the very beginning, and we don't only do it for modular channel systems, we can support it with attachments and fire extinguishers. When we take all these into account, there is great summary of that during the project phase. How can we really do it? Well, this will help you use up to 50% less materials, well, better production times, up to 70% in the construction site. And of course, safety matters here, because we have our own programs, we have our own products, calculations and drawings, and the 3D models that we prepare. This is how you reach the right solution. Optimization in design is more important, so we have a short video and then we're going to go through all of them one by one.
Coordinating and planning efficient work among MEP contractors is a very difficult task. It often results in wasteful, single-trade supports and improvised fastening solutions. Clashes on site, higher material use, and unplanned costs are typical consequences. Support systems are not usually designed as a full application solution, including fire stop and anchors. This makes it challenging to get optimum results. By pre-designing support systems, including fire protection and anchors, we can build multiple disciplines into a single design proposal. By putting these solutions into your BIM model, you can realize massive optimization potential. When you identify clashes and finish the engineering work before installation begins, rework can be significantly reduced while safety can increase. Through multi-trade support systems, you can furthermore reach material savings of up to 50%. We provide suggestions for design optimizations and solutions, which include fastening and fire stop, enabling prefabrication and advanced logistics later on. Be with Hilti, BIM with Hilti.
And one thing we mentioned is all the challenges that you may encounter at the construction site. Yes, we can address that in the construction site. We would actually want to smash all your habits, because this would all mean costs, and time is one of the greatest cost items. This is why we focus on pre-manufacturing or pre-production. All the cross sections that you design with the right parts and with the right cuttings, we basically do the pre-production of that before we go to the site. And first, this is great contribution for OHS. You have lower risks of OHS, and it is basically 50% less time spent in installation, and you definitely spend less time in it. And the right installation is quite important for modular channel systems, for it to carry the weight in a proper manner. We don't only have pre-production and then we comply with your business plan. We do the shipment in the right time slots, and all the products that you have, well, first, so all the when you bring them to your project, this basically results in warehouse costs. Without having to occupy your warehouse, we bring them in the right time slots. This is how you have all these calculations, and you don't have to deal with the mess that it will create. And shipments and deliveries of that, as everything is on BIM, so delivery times, where they are and where they will be delivered, you are able to monitor it, and you may choose the timings of that. And 2 points that I was describing, from BIM to site and from site to BIM. What do we mean by the site to BIM? All the information on BIM can be delivered to the site with Hilti's vehicles, and alignment and measurement systems, you can see them on the right hand side as well. And this is also part of the video that we will show at the end of this presentation. We have a laser measurement system, and what is that? A BIM based modeling that you have. The tablet, you can install it, you can load it there, and all the connecting parts in that, with only one single button, you can see whatever you need to see. And precast and passive fire extinguishers, you can also see them if you determine it at the beginning of the project. Without having to implement it again, you may only leave it at the point that you were delivered. And as you're doing all of that, we need some verification data. And how do we have it? You can also see it in our stand, a smart handheld terminal we have. So every bolt and screw that we use, when it was done, at which torque value, and whether it is correctly done. So this is all data that you can take in a reporting tool. And fire extinguishers, for example, when I scan the tag, all the information on the tag can be displayed on the system in a single screen, so you can basically monitor your business processes, and this is how you basically speed up your processes. So from site to BIM, what is that? Your innovations, and you may have a structure, you want to collect data about the structure. We have scanning devices, we have scanners. All the scans that you have, you can import them to the computer, and you can have 3D modelings of that. Well, yes, I've been talking about it very frequently, channel system digitization, but what matters is sustainability, and Hilti has a presence on that aspect as well. By 2050, zero carbon footprint is what we pursue right now, and all the certifications that you can see, we have been certified with that in modular channel systems, and it has certain benefits in addition to some awareness for the environment. Well, contrary to what we're used to, minimum steel per kilogram we use. What does that mean? This means less waste of products, and with minimum steel kilograms we can reach higher carrying capacities. And we also have added value engineering processes, construction information modeling, design solutions optimized, and with that this results in lower costs. And with pre-production we produce zero waste, and we want to have lower number of packagings, and we use green steel. By taking all these into account, well, nature on one side and 30% cost savings, and your CO2 emissions, basically you save from it by 42% as well. And the video that I wanted to show you, let's see what Hilti does in addition.
At Hilti, we strive for change. Around the world, our innovations have shaped how work is done on today's job sites. Today, our ambition remains as strong as ever, to drive productivity through innovation. With BIM, we've already entered the age of digital planning. What if we could use the same data to not only streamline processes, but simplify trade collaboration and automate repetitive and strenuous tasks? Now our vision becomes reality. Introducing the Hilti J-Bot, a semi-autonomous drilling robot for ceiling installations, helping you to deliver MEP projects on time. Let's not wait for the future to come. Let's shape it together. At
Artık dünyanın başka bir
Well, we can now understand that the world is headed to a new direction. And please scan the QR code, or if you have any questions, you may contact us anytime you wish. And engineers will be responding to your questions on the same day.
Nerede? He, tamam. Sağ olasın. Teşekkür ederim. Başlayalım mı? Değerli arkadaşlar, hoş geldiniz.
Dear colleagues, friends, welcome. Let us start. I think our time is, we are just on time, academic time. We may take a few moments to wait for the people who come, but we will just start and others can join later. Dear all, we just had a celebratory event, celebration, and we need celebrations. On the other hand, there are some other realities in life which we need to face. One of these is that there are wars going on in the world at this time. And if you look at the background of these wars, you will find that it's a war of energy. Currently, there's a war between Israel and Palestine. However, behind it, there's a geopolitics of energy, and the real experts will understand this knowledge. If this war didn't happen, nowadays, Turkey and Israel would be having an agreement to bring the natural gas from Mediterranean to Europe. If that agreement had passed through, who would have benefited from it and who would have not benefited from it? Of course, such a natural gas agreement would mean that 2 years ago, countries who would purchase natural gas for a price of 250 euro now have to purchase this for 2,500 euros. This is the reality, multiplied by 10 times. Well, nowadays it has reduced down to 1,000 euros, the price of natural gas. And do you know why is that? We must question why this is happening. Yes, we must also celebrate our republic. At the same time, India is able to purchase natural gas a lot cheaper than us and 60% cheaper than Europe. And we should also question this fact. In the Ukrainian war, there was also the geopolitics of energy that was in play, and this is the same in Israel-Palestine war. And let me just open my presentation with these remarks. The title of our presentation is the National Crisis Management During a Potential Natural Gas Shortage. Well, where does this come from? there's no, you may say there's no natural gas crisis. We are able to supply receive natural gas. Well, we are paying 3 times more price to natural gas to purchase it compared to time before the war in Ukraine, and Europe buys it for a price of 5 times more. But India purchases it 40% cheaper than Turkey. And why? I will explain to you the reason why this is happening. Yes, currently we are facing a crisis of natural gas, and it does exist. We experienced it last year. Our politicians struggled to manage the natural gas crisis, and in order to prevent any panic in the public, they didn't reflect it to the public. Uh, it was the price, the extra money paid for natural gas was subsidized from the public resources, unfortunately. Well, it's natural that there could be some arguments between politicians. I'm not a politician. I'm not pro or anti government. I'm an industrial man who likes his country, and I have to view this in an objective way. One of the politicians now say that where has $128 billion gone? The others may comment that why are we having current account? Why is our industry losing? We are having unemployment. We need to go down to the root cause of this. And I have no issues in saying truth. First of all, let's ask where does natural gas being used? So let's look at the statistical data and where it's being used. This is the distribution of natural gas by sectors.
Evet. Peki doğalgazda bir risk var mı? Ne tür risk var? Niye şoma hızlılık yapıyorsun be kardeşim ya? Niye felaket tellallığı yapıyorsun? Denebilir. Evet arkadaşlar, bazı riskler var. Bir, politik riskler. Yaşadık. Rusya atom bombası atmadan Avrupa ve Amerika'yı dize getirdi arkadaşlar. Neyle? Doğal gaz boru hatlarıyla.
Well, these are the risks in the supply of natural gas. So natural gas is not only a very innocent source of heating, it can be used as a weapon and it could be used for good or as a weapon. There are technical risks as well. Well, natural gas, we have pumping station, liquidization stations, gasification stations, and stations to increase or decrease pressure. There are thousands kilometers of natural gas pipelines. There could be technical risks like ruptures in these pipelines. We shouldn't disregard these risks. What else? There are economic risks. If we cannot economically pay the price of the natural gas, the supply can be stopped by those who supply it. If we go into conflict with others, we can be in a position, in a risky position not to receive. And there are proxy wars going around in the world, and it is done through terrorist organizations currently in the world. If there is any dominant power in the world that would want to go into a struggle with Turkey, we would not be able to protect our natural gas pipelines in winter. The main pipeline is 15,000 kilometers, and we have thousands of kilometers of natural gas pipelines that go through mountains, and it's not very easy to protect them. There are risks, and we shouldn't act as if there were no risks. We shouldn't ignore, disregard these risks. Well, what can happen if we indeed face a natural gas crisis? Well, Ankara is a cold place. If there was a natural gas crisis in January, then if there is such a crisis, then our ministries, hospitals would close, let alone the residences. Life would stop, and our politicians, they cannot take these risks. For this reason, behind closed doors, they are doing some agreements, and perhaps, unfortunately, we don't know what is going on in that place. Of course, the state cannot explain everything. I'm not criticizing politicians for this reason. However, some things are not, because some things are not being declared or explained to us, and perhaps we are giving large compromises. We experienced this last year in the industry. We had to close down our factories for 10 days. And for residents, unfortunately, we have high risks. We have 60% dependency to natural gas in residence. We have a guest here from Russia, and Russia uses in its critical facilities a double-fueled burners. So even Russia, which is dominating, it is a dominant force in natural gas in the world. Even in Russia, the dependency in residents to natural gas is less than 60%. In industry, it has less than 70% dependency, and in energy, it has less than 40% dependency on natural gas. Well, what kind of measures can be taken? Finding alternative resources. Potentially, politicians are working on it, but it's not easy. We said that there would be some gas from Mediterranean coming, and potentially they worked on this. However, currently natural gas from Mediterranean is just a far-fetched dream. From Algeria, Nigeria, we are using some gas resources from those countries, but there are challenges. We need to work on that. We need to create alternative lines, and from alternative lines, I mean this. To the same city, you need to have a natural gas pipeline from one source and from another source. Of course, I'm sure that these are being planned. And alternative fuel sources must be created. China is buying all of its energy much cheaper than us. India is buying much cheaper than us. And why? Because India is not dependent on any others who would threaten to cut the natural gas. They never had this mistake. They don't have this dependency like us, which becomes a burden on them. Or perhaps they couldn't go into that because they didn't have enough financial resources. However, currently in India, they are purchasing natural gas about 30% less for price, 30% less than us, and from the same vendors. Gazprom is selling the gas to us 30% at a higher price to Turkey. Let me come down to my own expertise as I close my remarks as we're coming to the end of our time. As company, as Gökçe burner company, we manufacture burners which has dual fuels, and we have this technology in our country. Our other companies are doing this as well. For critical buildings, critical industrial facilities, critical burner rooms, they must have dual fuel. So they must have double fuels. If our critical buildings did have dual-fueled burners, then we would have purchased natural gas for 30% cheaper, like India. So I'm not just suggesting that we should completely stop burning natural gas and use fuel oil instead. I'm aware of the comforts that natural gas brings. So I'm not just trying to put the nature into threat to have a discourse of heroism. But I also believe that we should not disregard the realities of our country. Let me just say this very clearly, that we have burners who are incapable of any other fuel other than natural gas, and this is a great threat to our country and makes our country energy dependent, and it puts a great burden on our country. We shouldn't just pressurize ourselves, burden ourselves to only burn natural gas at the cost of being dependent. There are other alternatives. There are systems with dual fuels. And why should be threatened, receive these threats that if somebody outside just closed down the natural gas supply to us, then we would face challenges, great challenges. So why are we subject to, exposed to these threats? And if outside organization close down the natural gas, we must have our critical buildings secured through dual fuels, such as the public buildings, hospitals, mosques. Such buildings must be secured. So if in the middle of winter we suddenly the natural gas supply stops, then we should be able to provide an alternative in Erzurum, Kars, Ankara. So we must be able to confidently manage this and say no to blackmailing, being exposed to blackmailing. Large buildings. They may say that in combi burners there are no other fuel than natural gas. Well, our constructors are trying to escape from just the small cost of putting an outlet into the building. At least we must have the option to have a stove, simple heating stove. And however, the construction, because builders don't put that chimney, they don't want that cost. We only use the condensing boilers that are installed at the top floor of the building. In case of a potential natural gas crisis, if these rooftop condensing burners will have no use, they will have no use. These central heating systems would have no use in a potential crisis. If there would be an alternative tank next to it, just an alternative supply of 2 or 3 tons with the same cost, same environmental solutions, with environment-friendly solutions. If we could achieve that, I would like to especially shout out to the colleagues in our sector. We must warn our politicians and our industry people, industrial facilities must take precautions and measures. Our government should create an alternative fuel systems and supply energies with alternative resources and subsidize industrial people who use these alternative resources, especially for critical public buildings and for large facilities and for large residents should be built and designed in a way that allows the use of alternative fuels. This is important. Thank you very much for listening to me. I believe we are out of time, but if you have any questions, I can take them. We are unable to hear the question. You mentioned electrical heater. Well, yes, our lines in Turkey are not designed for electrical heaters. If you think about a building with 20 blocks or 20 residents, if the central heating is lost, the interconnect line is unable to use these. If it opens 5, 6 electrical lines, then the electrical lines would collapse. So our electrical system is not designed to support that, unfortunately. Well, that could have been a solution. We could take a lesson and prepare our interconnection line to allow electrical heating, design it in a way to enable electrical heating. This can be homework for the government, given by the government. The key point is to have backup. It can be through solar system, through electrical systems, through heat pumps. The key thing is to have the backup. One of the other backup method is the dual-fueled burner systems. This is part of our own job, and and we recommend the dual-fueled burners for our country. Any other questions? You have the mic. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, first of all. As Gökçe Borular Burner Company, do you have any works on hydrogen as using hydrogen as a fuel? And with regards to the electrical heating in residence, it's asked by the other person, it's very hard because we have 500 watts per the plug. However, the heaters have 1,500 watts. For this reason, if you use those in residence, you have a risk of fire. If you can do this as the whole neighborhood, you would burn down the neighborhood. This is why it is challenging. And starting from Turkey, especially many other countries are moving to renewable energy resources, but they are late. Many countries are lagging behind in moving. And we will have a serious carbon footprint, and there's a threat of carbon taxes. Despite this fact, I believe that the work is in these sectors in ongoing very slowly, which is a disadvantage. If the rooftops of the residents are used, the world is able to produce 3,000 times of the electricity needed in the whole world. Thank you very much for your contribution. You asked about hydrogen as a fuel. Yes. We have the hybrid products that consume hydrogen together with natural gas. We have progressed in that regard to burn in a hybrid way, and we are still working on as a hydrogen as a single fuel. It's a matter of R&D. Thank you for your presentation. Currently in residence, there is an individual, if there is a, let's say 300 buildings in one place, there's normally self-contained individual combi burners. Considering this potential crisis, could you propose the government, for instance, in the face of a natural gas crisis, central heating, we must return to central heating systems instead of individual. Can you recommend this? Of course, thank you very much. On one hand, becoming central, on the other hand, becoming renewable, focusing on renewable, focusing on hydrogen fuels. These works all should run in parallel. And thanks to you, through this platform and with the support of our media organizations in our sector, I believe that the public bureaucracy should receive this message. I kindly request our media sector to pass on the message to the authorities. If you have no other questions, I would like to thank you deeply. Thank you very much.
Hello? Hi. I can hear myself, so I guess you can hear me too. First of all, thank you for being here. And we would like to walk you through something which apparently is very boring, but is necessary. And we would like to talk about the F-gas regulation, which is currently in place in the European Union and in Great Britain. And we will try to give you the highlights of what's needed to know about this regulation. So first of all, who is interested by this regulation? Every company that is somehow dealing with HFC refrigerants, hydrofluorocarbons, whether they are manufacturer of gas, blender of gas, or manufacturer of equipment that is using these refrigerants, this is something which is of interest with them. And my company is Navis, and we have a very large experience of dealing with the regulation because we've been in strict contact with the government in the European Union. On a personal level, I've been working with them. And we are also very much in contact also with the British government when it comes to the implementation of the F-gas regulation there after Brexit. First of all, this is dedicated to all the Turkish players that somehow have to deal with the European Union and with Great Britain. And it's very important to understand that there are two separate regulations in place. That's why you see the EU F-gas regulation on the right and the GB F-gas regulation. This is because when the United Kingdom decided to leave the European Union, they also decided to adopt the same regulation for the United Kingdom. But because of political and geographical restrictions, there are some hiccups and some findings that is important to understand. Why we are talking about Great Britain and not United Kingdom? The United Kingdom is made by 4 regions: England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, while the regulation is only affecting England, Scotland, and Wales, which all 3 together are part of the Great Britain. So the regulations is now split into Great Britain, so everything that goes into England, Scotland, and Wales needs GB quota, and the European Union, EU27 member states, plus Northern Ireland, is another regulation. And these are 2 complete separate regulations, even though they play by the same rules. And that means that if you comply with one regulation in Europe and then you move your products into Great Britain or the other way around, you still need to comply with the local regulation. A little bit of a timeline. The F-gas regulation was introduced in 2015 in Europe. It was published in 2014, but entered into force on the 1st of January 2015. And for the first 2 years, it only applied to the importers of bulk gas. What is bulk gas? It's the refrigerant that comes inside cylinders, ton drums, isotanks, not the one which is inside the equipment. The requirement for the equipment kicked in 2 years later, in 2017, and then in 2021, two separate quota systems were created. Now, on the right, you can see that there is a graph, and this graph is showing the phase-down curve that has been decided by the European Union. Every 3 years, it's reduced by a certain percentage, and as of today, the regulation is planning to push down the import of HFCs into the European Union by 79% by 2030. So 2024 is going to be the next year, and you will see a cut
of 14% of the available quota to import HFCs inside the European Union. This is actually something very important to know, because depending on the activity that you are doing for your business, you need different types of quota. The quota is released by the European Commission or by the UK government to the companies that are importing gas, not in equipment, but in bulk. So the quota is released by the government. It has 1 year validity, so it's valid from the 1st of January until the 31st of December of each year. And if it's not used, it expires, and it cannot be rolled over. This quota can only be used by the importer of gas, as I said. It can be transferred to another company to import gas, and it cannot be used to import equipment. So if somebody thinks, okay, I can apply for the quota, get the quota, and then import equipment, no, it doesn't work like that. The part related to the equipment is the one that you see on the right side of the screen, and it's called authorization or delegation. So the authorizations is the type of quota which is released by an importer of bulk gas to importer of equipment. So when a company that is importing gas has some availability of quota that will not be used to import gas for themselves, they can authorize it to an importer of equipment. So under this point of view, it's very important to understand that while the quota is given by the European Commission or the United Kingdom government for free to the importer of gas, it has to be purchased from them, because they will use this value to recover the profit they would not be making by importing gas. The difference between the two is that the authorizations and delegations never expire. So it's once they are on the account, you only consume them based on your imports. And if at the end of the year you have a leftover, it will be carried forward into the next year, and so forth and so forth. And authorizations have a peculiarity, because they can also be transferred to another company as delegations. They can be delegated. So the difference between the two is that the authorization gives you the flexibility to transfer them as delegations to another party. The delegations must be used by the undertaking. Sorry, very important. If you have authorizations and delegations, you cannot import bulk gas. Okay? We are now focusing on what we see as the key aspects of the regulation. And the most important one is for everybody to understand that there is a different quota system covering Great Britain, because not everybody has yet digested the fact that UK has its own system, and it's completely separated from the European one. The other point of attention is that because there is a revision of the European F-gas regulation in place, it's very important to act now, not to have bad surprises in the coming years, because there are major changes coming, and I will explain about them later on. Why UK is a big point of attention? Because this is the country that is issuing the highest fines to companies that are importing in excess of quota. The startup fine, if you are importing without quota or if you are exceeding your allowance, is £200,000. So if you make a mistake, £200,000 is there. Then there is another penalty, which is if you have the quota but you made a mistake in the reporting, so you reported after the timeline, you can get a penalty which goes from 1,000 to 10,000 pounds. But there is another penalty, a third one, which is even more worrying, which is 25 pounds per ton of CO2 equivalent in excess of the allowance. So if a company has imported refrigerant for 5,000 tons and does not have the quota to cover these 5,000 tons of CO2 equivalent, they get a fine of 125,000 pounds. So that's why it's very important that people understand that without knowing how it works, they step immediately into a danger zone, either directly if they are importing in the territory, or indirectly if their clients are importing and they are not aware of this important step. Now, what are the steps to take into the quota system for Great Britain? Company must register on the HFC registry. They need to have the right type of quota for the activity that they are carrying in their business. So quota to import bulk gas, authorizations or delegations if they are importing equipment. And the quota must be on the account before the import starts, not after. Because otherwise you are illegally importing. So necessary step is register, get the quota, start the import procedure. This is the sequence of events. And if you are working with clients, you need to make sure that your clients are following these steps, because otherwise they may be caught and fined, and they may not be able to continue with their business because their fines are quite high, as you can see. Some companies simply had to close because they could not afford to go on after they've received these fines. There is an article which says that, well, it's there for everybody to check. One company got 1.2 million pounds penalty because they were importing without quota. We can help you in the process because we know how it's done. So either talking directly to you or talking directly to your clients, we can make sure that they are on track and that everything is done properly. Now, this is the part related to the European Union. I said that there is a new F-gas regulation that is kicking in. There is an ongoing revision, and the final draft of the regulation was published on the 18th of October, so it's very fresh. And there are big changes coming. The first one is that categories which are now excluded from the quota system will be included. The most important one is the MDI. Those are the meter-dose inhalers, the sprays for people who are suffering from asthma, to when they have an attack and they need to breathe. They use these sprays to open up the lungs and being able to breathe. This will take away from the quota system 10 million tons of CO2 equivalent, which is not peanuts. The other point that I was already mentioning earlier on, instead of 79%, the target for 2030 will be moved to 89%. And the quota which is now released for free, there will be a fee to pay of €3 per ton of CO2 equivalent. This will automatically be reflected in the prices of the refrigerants and in the price of the quota, authorizations and delegations for the companies that need to buy it for the equipment. And last but not least, the restrictions in terms of type of products based on the GWP will become even more strict. So today you have a certain level of restrictions. Starting from 2025, 2027, it will be much worse. So certain products that you are importing today, like the standard split systems, they will probably not be manageable in the future unless they work with the low GWP refrigerants, which is not the case today. So R410A equipment will probably be impossible to be imported into the European Union. There is the link to the regulation. So in case you want to see what is going on, you can click on the link and go through the very lengthy regulation. It's in all European languages. Unfortunately, it's not in Turkish, but it's there. And quota strategy. For companies that are importing equipment, it's important to understand that because of the changes in the regulation and the changes in the curve becoming steeper, it's important to make sure that you have the quota that you need as soon as possible, because in the future you may find difficult to procure it and at the same time very expensive to do that. So if you look at the prices, now we're ranging between 17 and 22 euro per ton of CO2 equivalent. To put it in numbers, if you are importing an air conditioning unit which has inside 1 kilo of R14A, you need to consider 44 euro on top for the quota needed to place it on the market in Europe. So it's not peanuts. We have made an analysis, which I will show you later on. Prices have reached 42 euro per ton in the past, when the first cut of the quota happened in 2018. Then they have gone down, but now they're skyrocketing again because of what is happening in the industry after the announcement of the new F-gas regulation. And this is just to give you an idea of the price range. From 42 euro, it went down to 2 euro, and now it's going up. And this red curve that you see going up, it's expected to go much higher than before. And in a conference, the European Commission said that they would be very happy if the price reaches 100 euro per ton of CO2 equivalent. It's on their website, it's everywhere to check. Because with 100 euro, people will simply not be able to make a profit by selling split air conditioning units, with R32 even though the GWP is lower. So in case you are importing bulk gas and you're facing difficulties in Europe, we can help you, because Navis is not only a consulting company, we also have our own quota. We are listed as an incumbent company, which means that the quota is assigned to us based on the past year's activities. And we are listed as incumbent both in the European Union and in Great Britain. So we can supply quota in both environments if it's needed. And we have put in place a procedure which is called shared import procedure. So if one of your clients needs to import gas and they don't have sufficient quota, we can help you. We can help your client. So we have a lot of expertise, which ranges 360 degrees in terms of helping companies to comply with the F-gas regulation. We can help them by providing consulting, so explain how the regulation works, how to perform the yearly reporting, the yearly auditing, because there's a lot of administration behind the regulation itself. We can help you with the quota if you need it. And we can help you also with the refrigerant if it's necessary, because we can bring it to you if you can't import it yourself. So we are already working with probably the biggest name that you can think of. They all work with us. Some of them are actually also here. We can make sure that every company that needs to deal with the F-gas is fully compliant. We have offices in the European Union, in Turkey. We are based in Ankara. We have offices in Great Britain, clearly in the US, and we are opening also in other regions. Wherever there is the F-gas regulation, you will find analysis office to fall back on if you need any help. We are able to deliver in excess of 5 million tons of CO2 equivalent to our clients, which basically gives you the safety net that you need if you need to import your equipment or gas. But this number will fall down heavily next year when there's going to be the cut of 14%. And we are actively engaged with the European Commission, with DG Clima, which is the European governmental body looking after the F-gas regulation, with DEFRA, which is the Department of Food and Rural Agricultural Services in Great Britain, and we are working also with the APA, Environment Protection Agency in the US, because also in the US there is the quota system. By the way, you already have a quota system which will kick in next year for the importer of bulk gas. Not yet for the importer of equipment, but the effect will be that the price of the gas in Turkey will rise. So we always suggest to have 3 years quota on the account, especially if you're importing equipment, because in this way you hedge the cost and you feel a little bit safe and you don't risk running into penalties, especially in Great Britain. And we can help you for whatever need you have. We are the first and one company who has created an application to convert the amount of refrigerant which is inside the shipment into tons of CO2 equivalent. It's very easy to use. And the same application will show you the prices which are currently on the market in Europe and in Great Britain. So I invite you to download it and to play with it. It's entirely free, but at least it will give you an idea of how it works. There is a lot of explanation also in the application, so you can see what each single type of quota means in case you have doubt. What is the quota? What is the authorization? What are the delegations? And so forth. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much for being here. I think that we closed on time. Is there any question? You can ask questions in Turkish. I have my personal interpreter here. Any question? One there.
Hello. Yeah, I have two questions. The first is that you mentioned there's a €3 levy next year for European quota.
For 2025.
For 2025, okay. Do you see the GB quota system following that? And then conversely?
Possibly, because they've been talking about introducing fees for the quota system in general, not only for the quota. In Great Britain, there is a principle that when an officer, a governmental officer, is performing a service which is not public, and by public it means needed by everybody, just like, for example, health and safety and so forth, that service has to be chargeable. We had a meeting with the Environment Agency in Great Britain 3 years ago, and they said that there will be a fee to register on the HFC registry. There will be a fee.
In Europe, how do you see that evolving?
They're starting to do that. For example, in France, a company that is importing gas in excess of quota, bulk importers, the managing director is liable to go to prison. So each European member state is looking into the fines, each one in a different way, but they're all getting there. So this is a very tricky regulation. You may not know about it and everything goes well until they catch you, but when they catch you, it's really, really bad. You don't want to be there. Okay?
Thank you.
Any other question? We actually are ready to give gifts to people who make questions. If you want to ask questions, there are some gifts waiting for you. Okay? Then I think we can wrap it up. Thank you very much.
Şu an bizi görebiliyorlar mı?
Ha.
He? Ses? Ses kontrol. İyi mi? Fatih Bey başlayalım mı?
Shall we start?
Senin için yapacağız. Tamam, peki. Bak. %100 oldu. Evet. Arkadaşlar merhaba.
Hello. You probably heard of the brand Inca. Well, if you look at the activities of Inca, it is set up in the metal processing sector, and it deals with fixing systems, suspension systems, automatic clasps, manufacturing, and fixing of pipes and peak pipes and fittings. It provides solutions in these areas. Well, what makes different of Inca is that it prides itself on its quality, and it also always provides engineering support in all of the projects. One of the reasons to prefer Inca is that it has more than 30 years of experience as a company and manufactures with high precision and quality control. And throughout the project, we provide engineering support. Well, Inca made certain investments in building modeling at the time, and produced models and distributed these models to the users at that time. However, today these needs have changed based on the developments on the sector. So the Inca company has renewed its infrastructure. So I will try to explain what we've done to renew our infrastructure. As you all know, in the suspensions should be in LOD 400 should be included in the models. In BIM software, you probably heard of Autodesk as a company. They are a leading company for these types of software. They have a procedure that's recommended for LOD 400. Let's see how these procedures are made and added to the models. This is a video taken directly from the AutoCAD website. It's a training video. There's a round channel, and you put the hangers on top of these channels. Well, the suspension is put on these, and you can adjust the suspensions. There are locks on top of it, as you can see. You can put another suspension on top of one, and you can add one. Well, when you slide the system, the suspension follows it. And it now shows the locks. And this is it. It's a great solution. It's a fantastic solution. Is it implemented in the world? No. Nobody does the fitting in this way. The fixing systems are not, I mean, the fittings are not made this way. The detailed recommended system are done by fabrication parts. However, fabrication parts are no longer used. It's a great solution. We would have wanted to do it, but we couldn't do it. There's no one who does it. What are the other options? Let's look at those. There could be some applications written. There's a platform called Revit. It's a software platform. We could have written a software on that platform. There are existing applications that can be an option, and the suspension could have been done by our side. The first option requires a different kinds of expertise. Maybe it can be done through a vendor, so we couldn't put too much detail on it. The second option, using existing options, we could have done that, but they didn't really provide for our needs in terms of the variety and detail of products we needed, so they couldn't cater for that. We didn't use the option 2. The third option is that we could have done the suspensions parts, but changing, adjusting it, and would take too much time. And we didn't do that option either. Let's look at this. If we had created a model, what would have happened? This is not done by us, by the way. This was already done by someone else. As you can see, there are no fixing parts on it. It gives errors. It doesn't have the fixing elements, and the type only change, but the profiles do not change. So when you are trying to change something, you can't change on top of it, but you need to change from the parameters from the side, and knowing what part corresponds to what parameter, you have to memorize. Like, this is a very simple part, but there are so many parameters on the left-hand side. If you can identify the right one, this is the most developed to do the family. It's the most developed example. There are so many parameters, and they have special letters and cases so that it's memorable and it's explanatory. As you can see, there are so many parameters, and they are related to the size, diameters, etc. of the parts. So I said there were 3 options, but the 4th option, is there one? That's another topic. When we started, there was a solution that inspired us, and this is an approach by the Fisher Company. Let's have a look at that. They have grouped this together from the parts. This can be ungrouped or can be selected individually. There are so many locks on these. And you can pull and change the shape of them from the grasping points. Depending on the fittings, where the fitting is, you can adjust the size of the clamps. So I've chosen and I've changed. It's a good approach. We tried to develop it and we have seen that it's not very flexible. Depending on the place of the fitting or pipe, you can't really make it flexible to achieve the size that you want. Because it's grouped, you need a similar group. If you change one of them, all of them changes, so you need to create different groups. If you ungroup, then copying is difficult. The file size is too high and it gives too many open references and leads you to making mistakes. What others? There are too many locks. If you need to revise them, you need to unlock them one by one, and it is very easily corrupted. It works slowly, and we said that it's against the spirit of Revit detailing. Actually, you need to put the comma after Revit. Or you can say Revit has a different spirit. So as a result of our approach, these were the issues we identified. So our approach doesn't have any of those. Maybe in some parts you may come across those. Now, the model we have developed, let's have a look at this. In Outlook, it is similar, but the parts that inspired us, it requires different approach. I will explain, we can explain the details of this, but I will invite Rumeysa to talk about what can be done with our parts. Thank you very much for listening to me. Hi, this is Rumeysa. As Yücel mentioned, I have taken some sections from the technical video. First of all, these are the suspensions we designed. We use these in our own projects and designs. And then INCA's products can be made different with BIM models, and you can create the design that you wish to create. And then we can use these designs for the air conditioning channels or tube bundles. You can change all of the parts on top of it. All of the suspensions we designed are designed according to the rules, and you can make changes according to those rules. If they are not made based on the rules, it's easy to fix if errors come across. And then there are 2 vertical, 1 horizontal. There are 3 main elements. In total, there are 3 key elements, and we can make changes with those. And here there's a fixed suspension, and I will show a video to explain this. With the fixed suspension, we use this as the measure of seismic measures or as fixed suspensions, and we can have certain points to change certain points. We can change the suspension by giving them not only pulling them from these points, but by making changes like so. And then we can use the vertical or horizontal consoles to enlarge or shorten. And then what we can do is that within the Revit, we can take a section and we can adjust their width or heights from the same place. Here we're changing the parts. When we change a part, then any parts connected to that should be changed as well to be aligned with that. And also, when you change a vertical element, the vertical and horizontal changes as well. So when we make a change, we need to make corrections as well, relating to the parts that connect to it. And then what we do is that we have a part with one of the one parts, but when we change it, there could be slight differences which need to be adjusted. And then we finalize our suspension like so. In order to be able to make changes, first the design, we need to know how the design is created in the first place. For this reason, I'd like to invite Mustafa on stage. Thank you. I'd like to make you a trapeze suspension. For this reason, I'll try one by one. I will first create a base. After this base, I create the dwell and then put the other parts. Okay, on top of this dowel, I put the other parts that are the nuts and studs, and we have rods and levers, and I draw these and separate this from the base and take the rod to the center of the dowel and lock it. Now, after we lock our rod, we check if it works. Afterwards, we select all of them and create a copy next to it. Now, for them to work together, we lock these products and we control their movements. After this, we draw a G channel 4121 between these two rods, and we separate them from this level, and we will need to then connect these two. We have some supporting parts here. And we fix our profiles, and we change the angle of the profile, and we put the stud here and the scale here. We relation the rod after we enter our size. We take the stamp rod and connect our profile to the rod. After we connect our profile, on top of this, we will design our clamp. For this, we put the stamp and then the clasp, and then we put the gasket on top, and this is how we create our design. First of all, we put the square, and then we have the G clamp, and then we put on top the stamp and lock it. Now our clamp is now fixed on top of the profile, and there's no error or mistake. To copy the same, we can select all and copy, or do all of the steps from the start. And you see a warning created when copying. It shows that the top part has been removed. We again position our stamp on top of this as you can see, our clamps are ready, and it's functioning and doesn't give any errors. And this was our console design. This is it. Thank you very much for listening to me. Is there a question? If there's a question, I can take it. Thank you.